Vince McMahon lawsuit is paused ahead of a US Justice Department investigation. Plus, Jordynne Grace breaks her silence after her NXT debut. And we have an update on that WWE TNA crossover. It's all in the Cultaholic Wrestling news right now. So we have a development for you this morning in the Vince McMahon lawsuit. Janelle Grant has agreed to pause the lawsuit against Vince McMahon, WWE, and John Laurinaitis. And this comes following a request from the United States Department of Justice while the federal government carries out its own investigation. It comes after Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Sarah Mortazavi, filed a notice of appearance in the Grant versus WWE McMahon and Laurinaitis case yesterday.
Now, Janelle Grant's attorney, Ann Callis, issued the following statement on Thursday. Ms. Grant has consented to a request by the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York to stay her case against Mr. McMahon, WWE, and Mr. Laurinaitis. Pursuant to a pending non-public investigation, we will cooperate with all appropriate next steps.
Now, a source close to Bloomberg says that this case is going to be paused for 6 months. And interesting schools of thought online from numerous spokespeople, including David Bixenspan. And David Bixenspan has previously covered several legal situations within professional wrestling. And he speculated that the Department of Justice stepping in here and requesting a stay in the Janelle Grant lawsuit could be because they're close to an indictment of Vince McMahon.
Bixenspan tweeting, basically what this means is that the US Attorney Office has filed a mostly secret motion to press pause in the Janelle Grant lawsuit, and Grant agreed, which can pretty much only be because they're close to an indictment in their own sex trafficking investigation against McMahon.
Now, with this from here, Vince McMahon's attorney, Jessica Torb Rosenberg of Kasowitz Benson Torres, issued the following statements to WrestleNomics saying, "We remain confident that the evidence will prove Ms. Grant's allegations are false and her complaint is nothing more than a fabricated, vindictive narrative from a disgruntled former girlfriend."
Now, it emerged back in February that federal prosecutors in New York were conducting a criminal investigation into allegations of misconduct and trafficking against McMahon stretching back to 1986. That's a lot of news to break down just there. I think there's a lot of legal wording. Stay, obviously, that is a pause in the proceedings, but it's not surprising.
It surprises me in the sense that it's come out of nowhere,
yes,
as most surprises do. But it's the fact that they wouldn't be doing this because they were quite deep into the case here. Yeah. This has been going on since January when Janelle Grant filed a lawsuit against Vince McMahon, WWE, and John Laurinaitis for trafficking, abuse, and emotional and physical abuse and assault as well. And this has been ongoing since then. We were going back and forth on motions to compel arbitration. The defendants wanted it in a private court. Janelle wanted it public. Mm-hmm. And there's been a lot of that. So the sudden pause on this has come out of nowhere. But the big thing from there is, and it was mentioned by David Bixenspan and a few other people as well, they wouldn't throw this metaphorical spanner into the works if they didn't think that there was something compelling or an indictment on the horizon. Yeah, no,
they tend to only do this if they have a certainty that things will go their way. It's the US Department of Justice. It's a very big deal. This is quite a very, very, very serious situation. And I guess it's a waiting game to see when they make that statement, when they announce something.
We'll keep you up to date on that one at cultaholic.com. Now, the big talking point from the in-ring of the wrestling world this week has been this crossover, this special relationship starting to form between WWE and TNA. Jordynne Grace rocking up on NXT on Tuesday night to challenge Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's title at Battleground. Jordynne Grace spoke exclusively to Fightful Select following this surprise appearance, and she told us a few more details about how it all came together and the level they went to keep it a secret.
It did indeed. She said Grace confirmed reports that Roxanne Perez didn't want to know who she was facing until Jordynne walked out to the ring on NXT. NXT officials wanted Roxanne to know who it was and tried to tell her. She went, no, I don't want to do that. It was kept a closely guarded secret in NXT as well. Grace revealed that TNA and WWE have, of course, had conversations for months. This dates back, of course, to the Royal Rumble appearance from Jordynne Grace. But it became a real possibility within the last few weeks that there would be a little bit more crossover. She says on the Sunday prior to the appearance, she got her travel information from WWE, and then it sort of became real. They sent doctors to check her out at her hotel to make sure that she was in good condition to be wrestling in the WWE.
She's in the best condition of her career, without doubt.
It's insane. Yeah. She said she went down to the hotel gym while she was being hidden, and right there was Ethan Page.
What are you doing here?
Yeah, and you go down to the hotel gym and you're surprised and you see your former colleague.
Yeah.
It's like, oh no. He, of course, was also surprised. He asked her not to ruin his surprise, and she was like, don't ruin mine.
But they ended up hanging out together at Cesar Bononi's garage for a few hours whilst keeping the secret alive. NXT also had a special car parking space for Jordynne Grace, and they brought her in during the show about 8:30, so while the show was in progress. Shawn Michaels, a massive fan of what Jordynne Grace is all about. Shawn Michaels had the time of his life on NXT.
He was loving it, and every post interview he's given, he did one with Adrian Hernandez, and he was just buzzing.
Yeah,
he was like, oh, this is great. I'm a big fan. Triple H owed me one, so I got Jordynne Grace.
Yeah, and he was in his car singing "Sexy Boy" with Sexy Red.
Yeah,
Shawn Michaels is all of us. Now, Jordynne Grace revealed one of the first people to message her after she popped up on NXT was Moose, the reigning TNA World Champion. He was like, "I want a piece of that action. How do I get in there?"
Not surprised. The amount, you see Jordynne Grace go over. She's a champion at the moment. She's got the TNA Knockouts belt on WWE TV. And she's getting a title match. Of course, anyone would want to be a part of the fun. And that's the thing, that she admits that Shawn Michaels was very excited about her appearance because he wants to bring fun back to wrestling. And he's kind of done that.
He really has done. He's done that. You can hear the full interview, by the way, with Jordynne Grace on Fightful's YouTube channel. It's a lovely chat that Jordan and Sean Ross Sapp had. Also, I was on the Fightful YouTube channel last night. I'll give that a quick mention. Quick shout to Kate from Fightful, my arch nemesis. I'm going to fight you on Wembley Way. But last night we talked about Ring of Honor for a bit, and we had a lovely time. You can watch that on the YouTube channel, and you can listen to that on their podcast feed as well. Thank you for putting up with me on the Ring of Honor recap. Tired this morning, though.
I can imagine you're but not as tired as Jordynne Grace is, because she's admitted that she's facing a lot of pressure by carrying the relationship between WWE and TNA on her shoulders. She was saying that her biggest fear was falling short of the expectation that the entire wrestling world has now put on her, which I can completely understand.
Yeah.
And is working out in her head how she's going to approach this match with Roxanne Perez, and how she should kind of perform, because she's got to leave the best impression possible, because it's a completely new audience. Yeah, you've got to start all over again. And she says that if she falls on her face, she recognises it could be cataclysmic. I think that's an exaggeration. I think you'll be grand. It'll be lovely. I imagine in wrestling at some point in that match, she will fall on her face.
No, I mean,
in the nature of the industry and the sport.
So Jordynne Grace and Roxanne Perez trying to push each other on their own faces at Battleground next month. But as Fraser Porter's about to tell you, as we hear from WrestleVotes, to quote the Carpenters, we've only just begun.
We have only just begun, Tom, because WrestleVotes given an update on the crossover that we've just been referring to, saying while the exact details of the deal are unknown, as they should be, I'm told the partnership between WWE and TNA has been months in the making. WWE loved the feedback and energy from Jordynne Grace's Rumble appearance and were eager to use her again. They said there are tentative plans for additional superstars to make crossover appearances in due time. Both companies understand that a slow and thoughtful approach is the best way forward in the beginning stages of this relationship.
Yeah,
understandable.
If you do all of them at once, they're all going to be watered down. You want to make them few and far between, and as and when makes sense.
It makes them more special. Especially when we get that crossover of a WWE guy going to TNA. If it just happened this week on TNA, it's like, okay, you've got a partnership to... You get Jordynne Grace, we get so-and-so. This will make it a lot more exciting. You never know what's going to happen. Like Shawn Michaels, adding that fun factor back, it makes it tune in TV. It makes it appointment viewing. Who's going to show up? You never know who's going to show up.
I think what's lost by some of the more lower energy, more tribalistic wrestling fans is it's not just TNA guys shooting their shot with WWE talent. The respect that TNA has across the wrestling landscape is still huge, and there are WWE guys that have been shooting their shot with TNA as well. Yesterday we talked about Drew McIntyre sharing that photo of Drew Galloway as TNA World Champion. We saw Mustafa Ali and Cedric Alexander going back and forth, looking to have an X Division title match. Speedball considering matches with Nathan Fraser and AJ Styles. Josh Alexander saying, "Come on, everybody!"
Just everyone. Again,
I love you all.
Yeah, like there's so many dream matches that could come out of that company.
And they continued on yesterday. Xavier Woods pitching on Twitter for he and Kofi to win the TNA tag team titles and then make a parody song with Joe Hendry.
Imagine the New Day and Joe Hendry together. That is magic.
I have to say, on the Joe Hendry front, a massive thank you from the heart of my bottom for people who got behind the "Oi Triple H, you coward, get Joe Hendry to Clash of the Castle." That dream is Jova because Joe Hendry has been booked to do TNA in Chicago that weekend. Now, unless they invent
he's got to go work.
Unless they invent a matter transporter and a time machine in the next couple of weeks, I don't think it's happening. But if you're going to Chicago, go and see him, sing songs, wave your hands from side to side, and say his name, and he'll appear. You cowards. Killer Kelly on Twitter says when she's back in the mix at TNA, she wants a piece of Tatum Paxley.
That'll be a fun one. Sami Callihan, of course, challenging anyone on the NXT roster to a date with the death match, which was answered by Joe Gacy, who simply said, "Hey, Sami," with all the upside down smile emojis because he's mad. He's mad.
I'm mad.
He wants a match with Sami. There's so many possibilities here. Hopefully, like WrestleVote says, it is a slow beginning just to tease them in, and then eventually give us that crossover. Give us that a big Worlds Collide event. Definitely not hashtag Forbidden Door, but Worlds Collide.
Forbidden Door, Prohibited Portal, Naughty Window, whatever you call it. It's an exciting time in the world of wrestling. And if you want an escapism from the world of wrestling, how about going ghost hunting with Fraser Porter tonight?
Oh yeah, 6 p.m. twitch.tv/Cultaholic. We're going to watch the most haunted and I'm a big skeptic in ghosts, Tom. But let's see if that will change by the end of my Twitch stream.
It's twitch.tv/Cultaholic, 6 p.m. British summertime. And for the latest wrestling news throughout the day, you can check out cultaholic.com. Stay safe. Love you. Bye.